Hey there. Super sorry to be gone, but Nola fell yesterday at the playground at her school, and we didn't realize how serious it was until later in the evening. And so I have to take her to the doctor today. But it's nothing that bad, but just something needed to be addressed this today. So I don't need to worry about her too much. But just unfortunately, I couldn't be there this morning. But I will be back later today, so if you really need to see me for something like that, I will be back in the afternoon. So we're going to be building on what we were working on over block day. Just like I said, we're going to be kind of doing the same thing over and over again, just adding little wrinkles to it. The big thing yesterday was that I was having to give you, that first piece of information to start the problem. And so today we're going to talk about, how do we take that away? How do we find all that stuff on our own? So, so we use that factor theorem on the block day to find those factors. Being given a factor, find those other factors, or being given a zero, find those other zeros. So today we're going to figure out how to do that on our own without being given that. So we're going to learn a new theorem, which is called the rational zeros theorem. And again, it sounds really complex when you read it, but I'll try to break that down for you so it's not so bad. But what it basically means is that, so for any polynomial, right? So some polynomial has integer coefficients, which is, like a normal polynomial that we always see, that the coefficients are integers. And every rational zero, so remember what a rational number is a number that can be written as a ratio, so a fraction, can be written, or of that polynomial can be written in the form p over q, right? So written as a fraction, where p is a factor of the constant term, so constant term, and q is a factor of the leading coefficient, so our leading coefficient. So basically what we do is we're going to factor our constant, we're going to factor our leading coefficient, and we're going to write all those factors as fractions, as ratios. And what turns out is that every rational zero of this function will be in that list. So what I like to liken this to is, imagine if somebody stole your wallet, and so we had no idea who did it. That, just anybody could have done it. So there's a whole huge list of suspects. It'd be really hard to figure out who did the crime. What this is going to allow us to do is say that somebody in the room stole your wallet. So now we're down to 20, 30 suspects. Much easier to solve that crime when we know, some of the possible answers. So we're looking for possible answers to this question, right? So that's when we write out this list, we need possible answers. And within that list, will be the answers that we're looking for. So what you want to do is you want to think about, what P is, and so P is your constant. So it is a little weird because you're starting at the back of the problem. So factors of 50. So I just like to write the number here. So I want to factors of that number. So something like 1, and then 3, and then 5. Oops. And then 15. It doesn't matter what order you write them in. Now I could also have, -1 times -15. I also could have, -3 times -5. And so what we're going to avoid to avoid having to say all of those over and over again is we're just going to write a plus minus here. So I do need you guys to do that, thinking about the fact that there are not only the positive factors for 15, but also the negative factors for 15. So this will be something that we need to do. And then we'll also have the factors of our, leading coefficient, which is, in this case, 1, which is super nice. So our leading coefficient is 1. So what are the factors of 1? Well, it's just positive and negative 1. And so what we're going to do is write all of those factors as ratios of each other. And so this is the super easiest one, because what we're going to do is going to take all the numbers in this list and divide them by all of the numbers in this list. So I'm going to take 1 and divide it by 1, and 3 divided by 1, and 5 divided by 1, and 15 divided by 1. So, well, of course, that just gives me 1 divided by 1, 3 divided by 1, 5 divided by 1, and 15 divided by 1, but again, it could be positive and negative for all of those. So there are possible rational zeros for that problem. Again, what this is represents the suspects. This is within this list of 1, 2, 3, 4, but then 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 numbers here. Within this list of 8 numbers are the 3 answers to this problem, right? So 3 of those 8 numbers that are here would be answers to this problem. That's kind of the idea. Okay, so now we're down to 8 suspects, and we know that 3 of them committed the crime. Makes it much easier to figure out. And we're gonna try that again, and then I'm gonna have one of you guys try doing it on your own. Okay, so we're going to list the possible rational zeros. So again, just pay attention to the instructions. This tends to be one of the things later on that students struggle with, is like when they read this, like, what do they want me to do? So listing those possible rational zeros, I tend to think of just like finding my P's and Q's. Students tend to do pretty well with that, thinking, okay, I need to find my P's and Q's. So remember where we start with this is with the constant. So we're starting back here. Now what's nice about this, we see that it says negative 10 there. Well, we actually don't need to worry about the negative, because remember, we're going to put plus or minus. So if you just think about the 10, okay, and so then what are all the factors of 10? So plus or minus 1 and 2 and 5 and 10. So all of those are numbers that can multiply together to be 10. Again, it doesn't matter what order you write them in. And then I want to think about my leading coefficient. So in this case, which is 4. So what are all the possible factors of 4? So plus or minus 1, 2, and 4. Those are all the numbers that multiply together to be 4. And so what I need to do now, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'm going to take all of the numbers in this list and divide them by all of the numbers in this list. So 1, 2, 5, and 10, all divided by 1. 1, 2, 5, and 10, all divided by 2. 1, 2, 5, and 10, all divided by 4. And whenever we're doing those divisions, writing those fractions, we are always going to reduce them. And if there's ever anything that comes up as a repeat, we won't write it twice. So kind of like the idea is like, if think of that crime idea, like, okay, who's on the list of suspects? I think Kyle stole my wallet, and I think Billy stole my wallet, and I think Judy stole my wallet, and I think Kyle stole my wallet. Like, well, why'd you say Kyle twice? Like, why would you? Right? Makes it sound weird. So we don't write the same number twice. We want the list to be as short as possible, so we won't do any repeats. So if as you're doing the reducing, you see the same number as you had before, don't write it again. Okay. So as always, we're going to start with a plus or minus, because we could have positive answers, we could have negative answers. I'm going to take 1, 2, 5, and 10 and divide them by 1. So I'm just going to get 1, 2, 5, and 10 back. And then I'm going to take 1, 2, 5, and 10 and divide them all by 2. So 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, but I've already got 1 on my list, so I don't need it again. And then I have 5 divided by 2, so 5/2. And then I've got 10 divided by 2, which is 5, but I've already got 5 on my list, so I'm not going to write that again. And then I need to take 1, 2, 5, and 10 and divide them all by 4. So 1 divided by 4 is 1/4. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2, but I've already got 1/2 on my list. 5 divided by 4 is 5/4. And then 10 divided by 4 would reduce to 5/2, which we've already got on our list, so I'm not going to write that again. So here are my possible zeros for this problem. Again, that's the possible solutions for this problem. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers times 2. So there's 16 numbers, so 16 suspects. And remember that there should be 4 answers. So 4 of those 16 numbers will actually be answers. So remember, like yesterday, I had to say, hey, 2 is a solution, find the others, right? So that's where that 2 came from. Or 10 is a solution, find the others. Or 1/2 is a solution, find the others. Or 1/2 is a 0, find the others. So this is where we're going to generate our first, our given info, like the given yesterday. So you're going to come up with that, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But first, I want you to practice finding those list of possible zeros on your own. And then, so pause this and then come back and make sure you did it right. So hopefully you've tried it, and you start off with 6, and that would give us plus and minus 1, 2, 3, and 6. Remember, you don't need to worry about the -6 since we are doing the plus or minus. Just the 6 is all that really matters. And then 2 for Q, which would be 2, which would be plus or minus 1 and 2. And then we're going to take all of those numbers and divide. So I'm going to take 1, 2, and 3, and 6 and divide them all by 1. So I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, and 6. I'm going to take 1 and divide it by 2, which is 1/2. Don't have that number yet, so I'm going to write that down. Take 2 divided by 2, which is 1, but I've already got 1 on my list. Don't need to write it again. 3 divided by 2 is 3/2. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3, but we've already got 3 on the list, so I'm not going to write it again. So these should be our possible answers, our possible zeros for this. I have 4, 5, 6, 12 possible answers, and then 3 of them will be answers. Okay, so we got 12 suspects. We know 3 of them committed the crime, and we're going to figure out how, here in the next step, how to figure out who those actually guilty party are. Okay, so that is finding the possible rational zeros. That's how we generate that list. And here next, we're going to figure out what to do with that list. So that's always going to be the first step of our problems from now on. Find that list of possible answers. Okay, so here's our steps over here. What we're going to do, we're going to list all our possible zeros. So there's your finding your P's and Q's. We're going to test some. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a guess. Say, I think 2 did it. And we're going to plug them in. We're going to check to see if it did. And remember yesterday we found out how to know if something was a 0 or not. Hint, it's called 0 for a reason. Okay, and then once we have a guilty party, we're only going to get him to roll on his buddies and tell us what the other ones are. So once we, remember, you take that thing you know and get rid of it, and the things that will be left will be the things we don't know. We can find them. So basically, step 2 and step 3 are going to be what we were doing yesterday. So we got this new step here, is step 1. Okay, so I'm going to start by finding my P and my Q. So my P value is my constant, which is 18. Oops. And so the possible factors of 18, so which are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. So those are all the things that multiply by 18 and have positives and negatives. And then my Q value is my leading coefficient, which is Q, which is 1, which I love 1 because only factors of 1 are 1 and -1. And so basically what that means with P divided by Q is that, right, we're just going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, and 18 and divide them all by 1, which will just give us 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18 back. So love it when that leading coefficient is 1. It makes everything so much easier. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 suspects. We have 3 solutions. So basically what we're doing right now is just guess, right? I really think 1 did it. I really think -1 is guilty. I really think 2 is guilty. I really think -2. Right? One of these numbers is. Okay. I'll give you a hint. If you're gonna get, when you start guessing, guess slow. I wouldn't bother starting your guesses up in the higher end of the numbers. Just tends to be the answers tend to be in the smaller area for the problems that we do. So just a little hint there to make things a little easier on you. So let's say, hey, what's the easiest number to work with? 1, right? Out of our list, with 1 to be the answer. So let's try 1 and see what happens. So remember our test is to do synthetic division. So I always want to look for gaps in my dividend. What am I dividing it out of? No gaps here, and we're going to try plugging in 1, see what we get. So we're dividing by 1. We're plugging in 1. We saw yesterday how synthetic evaluation worked. So 1 negative 8, 9, 18. Bring that 1 down all the way. So 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. 9 minus 7, plus negative 7 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And 18 plus 2 is 20. So we said yesterday if this worked, if the number was a 0, the remainder would be 0. And that's not 0. So 1 is not an answer. So we need to make another guess, right? So 1 turns out to be innocent. So, okay, what do we want to try? 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Again, try to stick on that lower end of the problem, lower end of the list. Again, you're just kind of taking a guess here. What do you think did it? All right, so I say, well, I'll try 2. If you want to pick a different number to guess, you go for it. And then 1, negative 8, 9, 18. Bring the 1 down. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. 9 plus negative 12 is negative 3. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 and 18 are not going to give me 0. So negative 2 didn't work either. I'm going to try negative 1 next. And if you want to do something different, you can. 1, negative 8, 9, 18. I know my handwriting is not always awesome, particularly bad tonight because I have to use a different stylus than I normally use. It just doesn't work as well, so sorry for the extra messy handwriting. So negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative 8 plus negative 1 is negative 9. Negative 1 times negative 9 is 9. 9 plus 9 is 18. I'm liking the feeling this. Negative 1 times 18 is negative 18. I'm really liking that, which gives me 0. Cha-ching. All right. So what we know is that negative 1 is guilty. Okay, negative 1 is a 0. So what we're going to do, all right, we're going to roll on our buddies, and we do that by turning the, writing that resulting polynomial, right, just like we did yesterday. So now we know we got 0. So there's my remainder. There's my constant. There's my x. There's my x squared. So I get x squared minus 9x plus 18. Please, please, please set that equal to 0 because we're solving it. We're finding those solutions. Okay. So we're going to, just like yesterday, we're going to factor this to solve it. We're going to do the AC method. So my A times my C is 18. I need 18 to add to negative 9. So what are my factors of 18 to add to negative 9? That'd be negative 3 and negative 6. And you're like, but Mr. Baker, shouldn't we be doing the shortcut AC because our A value is 1? I'd be like, why, yes, you are quite right. Great job remembering that. So since we could do the shortcut, we're going to go straight to our answers, our factors. So x minus 3 and x minus 6 equals 0. And then x equals 3, x equals 6. But wait, how many answers should we have? We should have 3 answers. We only wrote down 2. What? What's up with that? Oh yeah, don't forget about the first one, that first guilty party. Okay, so you will need to write down every answer today. So you got to bring down that original one that you found. Okay, so x equals negative 1, because remember, I didn't give you any information. I didn't say find the other answers. I said find all of them. So you need to tell me what every answer is. Okay, so you're going to start that problem, by going up, looking at it, saying how many answers should I have when I'm done? And when you're done, you better have that many answers. Okay, so that's the process for today. One of the things that can be tough about this is when, that guessing. What if you have to guess like 5 times and you just still, finally you get it on the 5th try? It sucks. Thankfully, synthetic division is fast. You're not wasting 2 minutes figuring this out, and another 2 minutes, and another 2 minutes, right? It's like, okay, I can maybe 20, 30 seconds here. Like, oh no, 20. So you might waste 2 minutes but it's not going to be a ton of time that you're like guessing. Again, if you stick on the lower end of the problem here, you're going to find the answers sooner than later. You know, and then sometimes you're going to get lucky and you'll guess on that first one and you're going to get right. So, so don't get too frustrated by that if you are, you know, guessing a whole bunch on one problem. I bet on the next problem you won't have to guess so many times. So this one you had to guess 3. Let's check out the next one. Just press that some more. Same question. That's all we're going to be working on today is this, the same idea. So just kind of practicing that, finding P's and Q's, finding those suspects, and then, you know, checking to see which one's guilty, and make him roll on his buddies to tell us what's up. So, all right, first thing we do is, you know, check out how many zeros we should end up with when we're done. So we're going to make sure we have 3 answers when we're done. So we're checking that out, and then we're going to go for our P's and our Q's. So my P value is 12. So I want to think about all the numbers and multiply to be 12. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 and 12. Again, if it helps you, like 1 times 12, and then 2 times 3, and then 3 times 4. If you want to write them in that order, you certainly can. And then our Q value here is, as far as 3 at the beginning, which is plus or minus 1 and 3, right? Nice short list, that's good. And what is P divided by Q? So plus or minus. And so I want to take every number in this list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, and divide them by 1, which is easy. That just gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12 back. And then I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12 and divide them all by 3. And remember, if I get any repeats, I don't want to, I don't want to write them again. So 1 divided by 3 is 1/3. Didn't have that before. 2 divided by 3, 2/3. Didn't have that before. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Oop, I've already got 1. Not going to write that again. 4 divided by 3 is 4/3. Don't have that. 6 divided by 3 is 2. I've already got 2. Not going to say it again. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. Oh, I've already got 4. Don't need to say that again. So there was the end of my list. I don't need any more numbers on that. So let's see how many suspects we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 18 suspects. 3 of them are guilty. So kind of a bigger list. So again, just, you know, using my little recommendation, start on the lower end of that. You know, these are technically the smallest numbers here on the list, but you know, the synthetic division with the fractions is a little trickier. We haven't done that yet, but it certainly is possible. It doesn't really change anything. You just put the number, the 1/3 out here, and you just do the math like normal. Why don't I show you that real quick, just to give you a little preview of it. So it's not that bad. So if I just want to grab 1/3, put it over here. Check for gaps. 3, 2, 1, 0. So no gaps. So 3, -5. Ooh. -16 and 12. So drops down 3. So 1/3 times 3. Well, that's 1. -5 plus. Good Lord, 1 is -4. -4 times 1/3 is -4/3. So that's a little tough. 16, -16 plus -4/3. Let's see, -16 plus -4/3. So I need this to be 3 down here. That'd be -48/3 plus -4/3, which is -52/3, which won't reduce. So usually, like if they're halves and quarters, these aren't so ugly. But then 1/3 times -52/3 would be -52/9. And then those aren't going to give you 0, so I'm not going to bother figuring out what that is. I know -52/9 is not going to cancel with 12. So that is how you do that. Obviously, that one didn't work. So again, I just would, suggest you start with the easy ones: 1, 2, 3. -1, -2, -3. So Okay, but every once in a while you do have to do a fraction, but I wouldn't pick them first if I were you. So, all right, so it's 1, right? What's easier than 1? So sometimes you get lucky and the answer, one of the answers is 1. So 3, -5, -16, 12. Bring down the 3. 1 times 3 is 3. -5 plus 3 is -2. -2 times 1 is -2 plus be -18. Not looking very good here. All right, didn't get 0. I'm just going to try -1. I like working with 1. Again, feel free to pick a different number if you like. So bring the 3 down. Let's see, that'd be -3, which -8, which can be +8, which would give me -8, not -6, which is not looking good. That's going to give me +8 back. So -1 didn't work. That took me about 20 seconds to do, so again, not wasting a bunch of time. Let's try 2, 3, -5, -16, 12. 3 comes down. That gives me 6, which is 1, which is 2, which is -14. Not looking good. That's -28. Nope. I'm going to try -2. 3, -5, -16, 12. -6, which is 22, which would be 6. Oh, here we go. So we get -12, which gives me 0. All right, found it. So, took a couple guesses. We got our 0 though. So, -2 is our first answer. Fix my handwriting here. It should be a -11. Now I need to pay attention a little better. So, there's my remainder. There's my constant. There's my x. There's my x squared. Alright, so I got enter into the black hole down here. So we got 3x squared minus 11x plus 6 equals 0. Don't forget to equal 0. I'm going to do some AC method here. Our a times c is 18. Need 18 to add to -11. Factors of 18 that add to be -11 are -9 and -2. So I go x minus 9 and x minus 2. And you go, oh, but Mr. Baker, a's not 1. You can't do that. I'm like, you're right. That's good. Can't do shortcut right now. So I got to do full AC because a is not 1. So 3x squared minus 9x minus 2x plus 6 equals 0. 3 and 9 both have 3x, which leaves me with x minus 3. Got -2 and 6, which is going to be a -2, which is going to be x minus 3 equals 0. Oops. And then it gives me x minus 3, 3x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 3. And then this one's a little bit, if you can do that in your head, great. If you can't, just write it equal to 0. So add 2 over, so 3x equals 2. Divide by 3, so x equals 2/3. All right, 2/3. All right, so there's one answer. There's 2 answers. But Mr. Baker, we were supposed to have 3 answers. Don't forget your original answer, oh Lord, which was -2. So x equals -2. Boom. So there are the 3 answers, the 3 zeros to that function. All right. So that's really it for today. If you want, if that's enough for you, of examples, you can go on. I'm going to do another one. Just please come on, stop by and do that. But here's another example if you feel like you need one. I'm going to start with p, which is 10. So factors of 10, so plus or minus 1, 2, 5, and 10. Then q, which is 4. So plus or minus 1, 2, and 4. So p divided by q, plus or minus. So 1 divided by 1, 2 divided by 1, 5 divided by 1, 10 divided by 1. And then 1 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2, which is 1, don't need it, 5 divided by 2, 10 divided by 2, which is 5, so I already have that. And then 1 divided by 4, 2 divided by 4, which is 1/2, already have it. 5 divided by 4, and then 10 divided by 4, which is 5/2, which we already got. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 suspects for a crime that has 3 guilty parties. So we're just going to start our guessing. Again, I would suggest you start down here. Hopefully you don't have to make too many guesses. I'm going to guess 2 this time. I don't know. I don't want to do 1 again. 1 didn't do well for me last time, so I'm going to try something different. But again, you feel free to try whatever you want. So 4, negative 27. Oh, should I check for gaps first? There are not any. 10. 4 down. 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 27 plus 8 is negative 19. Negative 2, or 2 times negative 19 is negative 30. That's not a 3. 8, which would be negative 5. Oh my lord, look at me. I'm guessing so well. 0. So we got the 0 we needed, which means x equals 2 is one of our solutions. So we're definitely going to remember that. So remainder constant x squared. So 4x squared minus 19x minus 5 equals 0. That looks like a full AC method problem to me. So a times c being negative 20. Need factors of negative 20 that add to be negative 19. I bet that's negative 20 and 1, right? So 4x squared minus 20x plus 1x minus 5 equals 0. Those both have 4x in them, which is x minus 5. And then x and 5 don't share anything, so it's 1. So you make sure you put that plus 1 there. And x minus 5 equals 0. Alright, so we are down to x equals 5, and then 4x plus 1 equals 0. So subtracting 1 over leaves me with 4x equals negative 1, and then divided by 4, x equals negative 1/4. So we got negative 1/4, we got 5, and then don't forget about that original guy, x equals 2. And so there are 3 answers, and I'm just going to highlight that they all did show up on our list. 2 is right here on our list of P's and Q's, 5 is right here on our list of P's and Q's, and negative 1/4 is on our list of P's and Q's. So all our suspects were found guilty. Case that's not sitting well, but here is the homework assignment. So please give it a shot. Again, I will be here late in the afternoon if you want to come see me if there's something you need to make up or anything, or homework you need to turn in and stuff like that. So, and we're ready to be working on our own. So hope you thought that was pretty easy, and if I didn't get to see you today, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and safe weekend, and I'll see you Monday.